Welcome everyone to wow, it is day 21 of the Univirtual Experience. This is a partnership conference and festival with Virtual World Society and Educators in VR, and we're bringing together experts and innovators in immersive education who are just disrupting education around the world. And you are at the perfect event when it comes to disruption and education. I think that goes perfectly hand in hand with the Immersive Learning Research Network, iLRN. And so we're going to be referring to iLRN by the acronym, but it is Immersive Learning Research Network. And so I'm here with Heather Dodds. And before we get started, I want to make sure that you all give up some hearts, give up some love to our Infinity sponsors, HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education. Now, Daniel, can I tell them about what's coming up as a surprise?
I think we should go for it. Yes.
Okay. Coming up next week, I need like drum roll sound effects for this. We're going to be holding one or more raffles for an HP Reverb G2 headset giveaway.
Yeah,
So get
boy.
ready. We're going to have news on that coming up. We're also
Yeah.
going to be doing some special events where we're going to be talking to the people from HP Higher Virtual Reality and Higher Education about setting up VR labs and how they're helping education. And you know, HP and education have always been synonymous, but now with virtual reality, they're right on board. So get ready for those things coming up. Also, want to thank our Galaxy sponsors, Engage and Advantis Education, who are also disrupting education in VR and AR. And all right, I want to get on with this, and we'll thank the rest of our sponsors at the end because we're here with one of our partners with Educators in VR. Y'all can come in a little closer. There's plenty of room on here. It just feels like you just get in comfy. You're all good. And Mike, just teleport up onto the platform. You'll be all good. Or re-enter. Mike, if you can't get out of the water, re-enter. It'll put you back on the platform. All right. So we're here with Heather Dodds, and I'm really curious. One of my questions is going to be about your new job and what's going on. But let's start first with telling people, you know, the reason behind why Educators in VR partnered with iLRN. Tell us about the organization. What is iLRN?
All right. Oh, that was two separate questions, but I can do this.
I know. You can do it.
Well, let me do this chronologically. So how did we, because we formed and met, and then iLRN kind of came into the picture. So I'll start there. Is that I was a presenter. It was my honor to present at Educators in VR International Summit 2020. And so I came, I was a groupie. I sat in the bleachers. I went to social sessions. I shook hands. I met weird people. And I had a great time. And I was completely impressed with virtual conference management out of your organization. And I left her. Yeah. I left with like a manual of like all the things that you guys had done. And it was like, okay, we're copying this and we're going to do this and we're going to do this and we're not going to do that. But we watched very carefully to see what you were doing, because simultaneous to watching the International Summit from 2020, the organization, the Immersive Learning Research Network, and that's the last time I'm going to say that because I do have to go with the acronym iLRN. I'm so tired. I have to do the acronym. We were at that very moment contemplating shutting down our in-person conference and moving it to virtual. So right at that exact moment, I literally met Laurel and Donna and Daniel all at that time, was super impressed, sort of hid in the audience. And when we got out of finally deciding that we were going to switch to virtual, Educators in VR was the first group and the only group that we reached out to and said, we need to form a bridge here because you guys have the volunteers, you have the expertise, you understand things like speaker training and video crews and scheduling and time zones and translation and how slides appear in VR and all these topics that we needed help with. So we partnered with you guys to put on the iLRN 2020 conference, actually, and you were stunning. I think you brought 700 people to the campus. I'm just kidding. It was a high number of people to the campus. Yes. And we had a
It was
great time together.
amazing.
It was hectic. It was a 5-day major slog. We did 16-hour days last year for 5 straight days. Got crazy, loved each other, formed relationships that will never end for the rest of our absolute lives. And
Oh, no, it was amazing.
and then we have stayed in touch ever since. And here we
Oh,
are again,
absolutely.
and
Well,
now we're
still
overlapping.
partners.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And it's very exciting. So tell us about the conference is going on right now. It started May 17th.
Yes.
It's in Virbela, where you have your campus.
Yes.
Tell us about this
Yes.
amazing conference.
So this is our 2021 version of the same conference, and we changed up the design a little bit. So instead of doing 5 frantic days of squishing a whole bunch of what would be a research and scholarship and practitioner conference into 5 days, we actually designed it to be roughly 30 days long, and that was really an administrative decision so that the people supporting the conference could have lives and sleep and use the bathroom, and stretched it out to 30 days. And then we also changed a little bit of when we focus our sessions. So we went in designing sessions primarily to hit, first of all, Europe. So a lot of our sessions start at 7 a.m. Eastern US because we're hitting about noon London in that way. And then we also hit sessions to hit Tokyo and Sydney. So a lot of we have sort of a second run every day that starts at about 7 p.m. Eastern US that catches Tokyo and Australia coming on board. So we particularly aimed for that because what we wanted to do was bring in the world's greatest experts in immersive learning into the campus for a concentrated sort of like mini networking experience. So I'll give you an example of what I mean by this. I think it was I'm forgetting time now, but 2 nights ago, I think we had a medical and healthcare presentation out of Greece that actually did happen in the evening, but that was for Greece. So they were lovely, lovely, lovely at presenting at about 2 a.m. their time. So that was really great on their behalf, and they did a great job. But what we did is we started in the evening with medical and healthcare education. That was their presentation. And then East Coast US went to bed. East Coast US got up out of bed, and at 7 a.m. the next morning, we started medical and healthcare education sessions the next morning. So the idea would be that if you came to the campus in, shall I just call it the evening, you would return to campus the next morning and you would find the same people there. So if you think about a traditional conference, that's very traditional, right? You'd meet someone at Wine and Cheese, perhaps the evening, at an evening event. You'd all toddle off to your hotel rooms. You'd come back down in the morning and meet them at the Orange Juice, right? Same people. And you'd be like, oh, how's it going, Laurel? It's nice to see you again, you know? So we designed that experience to rinse and repeat all through the conference. So we just wrapped up medical and healthcare education this morning, and nature and environmental science take the stage tonight for 2 hours. They have 2 prime sessions this evening. They will again present. That will be broadcast and recorded. We'll those of us in the East Coast and the US will try to sleep, and then we'll get back up in the morning, and oral presentations will begin on nature and environmental science in immersive learning will begin tomorrow morning. And then we just keep moving through topics. So we have workplace learning, we have inclusion, diversity sessions coming up. We have all kinds of things, and these are all spread through the next few weeks. Together with those topics, we brought in special speakers to speak with them. So for example, right around the time when we do our inclusion and diversity sessions, we've booked in Kavya Perlman from XRSI. She'll be coming in. We have some special sessions on how to recreate an Asian American historical site in VR. We have some sessions on just in general inclusion and diversity in VR and research related to that. So everything is kind of got a thematic approach as we move through the entire month. We did design in some really peak days. So we've already had 2 of the peak days as we opened our conference. So that was our Monday and Tuesday of this week. We had Alex Howland, who is the president and co-founder of Virbela, came in. We had a panel with Chris Deedy, Mel Slater, Mina Johnson, and Jeremy Bailenson on Monday. We had Dr. Shauna Pandya, present a keynote on Monday evening. We had Judith Okonkwo present a keynote on Tuesday in the afternoon. So we packed big, sort of all-inclusive events on those opening days of the conference. We're going to have a second peak right before Memorial Day weekend, US. So that is the 27th, 28th, and 29th. We're still confirming everyone who's going to come in for that, because we are talking a week from today. So there's still, as those of us have worked with speakers before, there's still time to work on confirmations. But we do have a large incoming flux of speakers there. And then our third peak of the conference will be as we close, June 9th and 10th. We'll be having Susan Delbene, who is the U.S. Congressperson and also chair of the U.S. Reality Committee. I didn't even know we had one of those, but apparently
Yes.
we do. Inside Congress, it's called the Reality Committee. It's not called the Virtual Reality Committee. It's called the Reality Committee. Isn't that a cool name?
I love it.
Apparently they're really forward, because they're considering all reality in their committee. She's going to be chairing a panel for us. We have Jesse Schell from Schell Games, which is one of the United States' largest producers of educational games. He'll be coming in on June 10th. We have, oh my gosh, can you believe I'm doing all this from memory? I'm not even looking at the schedule. I'm not even looking at the schedule.
Amazing. That is amazing.
We have an
Well,
indigenous
Yep.
panel. Now I'm going to look at the schedule. We have an indigenous panel coming in. We have another XR in Africa panel, all being planned to come in. We have a person that I haven't met. His name is Lieutenant Bales, but apparently he was just highlighted on CNN within the last 2 weeks for the use of VR in police training, particularly to train police not to target African Americans. We have Daniela Romano, who is a top medical researcher out of England, coming in. I've personally booked in Shiraya Chintalapalli, who has come in. I don't know if you caught that Shiraya presented for our GICon conference a couple of weeks ago on the campus. Shiraya definitely hits every button when it comes to the future of VR. She has an amazing perspective, and when I watched her present a couple of weeks ago on campus, it was one of those situations where she was presenting and she presented and she was totally pulled together. She had slides, her avatar worked, everything was fine. And then, like, the super secret professor in the audience popped up, with his little villain mask on. And he asked her a couple of killer questions. And man, did she knock it out of the park. I was like, way to go. So she is, you will not want to miss her, because you will mark it in your own lives as the day that you actually heard Shiraya speak, because she's absolutely amazing. You are going to see her on a lot of stuff. By the way, her particular favorite item is brain-based interactions in VR. So she is going to be working on the research of the probe and the headsets that you will wear that will touch right into your brain. That's what she does. So great stuff. And just so much more,
that's
Laurel. I
wonderful.
could keep going, but I won't.
I know you could, but I want to ask you, because this is different. This is also an eye.
Oh, you're cutting out a bit for me, Laurel.
Being a great speaker, there's another aspect to it. Can you explain that?
You cut out a bit for me. I'm so sorry. So could you repeat the question?
All right. No, that's okay. It's my bad internet, which has not changed. With you're an IEEE conference, and so that means that there's some different presentation styles. Could you explain it to people who don't understand what that means when you say the presentations?
Yes, we are an IEEE certified conference, and what that means is that we accept, roughly speaking, 2 different kinds of presentations for this conference. We have what we call an academic stream and a practitioner stream. On the academic side of the conference, we have to run very aggressive reviews of papers, which means we accept papers in. We have every paper that we accept in has been reviewed by at least 3 people who are qualified to review that paper. That, by the way, includes an entire recalculation of statistical analysis if it needs to be done. So I can tell you, as someone who has written papers with statistical analysis, and it means we have to boot up something like SPSS and start rerunning calculations, which could have thousands of data points in them. We rerun them. We check people's conclusions. We will only publish a paper if we feel like it's strong. We have to actually meet rejection standards for IEEE VR. So IEEE. IEEE does, they don't actually have published rejection standards, but they, shall we say, encourage some aggressive rejection standards, which means we only accept the very best papers. Additionally, there's some spin-off effects to that directly affect you standing out there as an avatar. One of the spin-off effects is that it's an IEEE VR requirement that those authors of those papers go before an audience and defend their paper. Okay, they cannot just publish. They must defend and stand up to questioning on their research, which means we put them on the virtual campus and we put a bunch of avatars in front of them and we open up the mics, right? And we open up the chat pod and they have to answer questions from the audience. And we're not above pre-planting people in the audience to ask questions, actually. But it's legit. They've got to withstand questioning. And then once they have been through that experience, we will publish their paper. So when the conference closes is when we publish their paper. No one can actually see the paper today. We're running the conference right now. People are actually presenting today, but no one can actually read their writing because we won't publish it until they have presented, and the last presenter doors close on June 10th, right? So we won't publish the paper until then. Here's an interesting little tidbit though. Yeah. If you made it through that part, that was the hard part. Let's just say someone submits a paper and we choose not to present it in the conference. It gets rejected. Get this, we still own the paper. So we capture the paper and we submit it to IEEE VR as an unpublished paper. And what happens is the author cannot republish that paper anywhere else. They're blocked.
Wow.
So it's an aggressive standard.
It is. I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, or a good thing or a bad thing, you know.
Well, it's meant to prevent bad research from getting out there. Yeah.
Right. Plus, it's about integrity. And that's one of the things that I appreciate most about iLRN is that it isn't just, you know, like Educators in VR is educators and researchers and all these coming together for a very specific purpose. We don't judge you and say you need to this and this. We're here because we all have a passion for immersive technology and bringing that into education and training and businesses and life. You know, iLRN's purpose is a focus of research, really focusing on the researchers and adding the layer of integrity that is so essential. It's all nice to do research and then make some claim that, you know, VR cures cancer, but it is not. If you can't substantiate it, you know, if you can't really defend it, it's just not good. And I love that integrity. That is so critical to have organizations that really defend that. And it's like defending our honor. So thank you for that hard work. That is just beautiful. Really, really appreciate that. How many papers have been submitted so far this year?
Oh my gosh, we had more than 100. We had more than 100 for sure. Yeah, and that's just the academic side. All I did was describe to your academic side. We had a practitioner side, and Paul is here, and we had a lot of presentations that came in on that side too. So yeah, there you go, Paul. Give him a wave. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. How many of you are members of iLRN? Give us some hearts. iLRN members. Paul. Oh, look at you. Beautiful. Yay! We love you. Wonderful.
Yeah, we have a lot of overlap. I think they want to be members and mutually back and forth. Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Now, so this is a little more sensitive question.
Okay.
Y'all were plodding along doing amazing things. And plodding's not the word. You've done innovative things all along. And then the pandemic hits. You come, we help rescue to convert it to the VR. You've now had an entire over a year in your Virbela campus. You've had continued pandemic where you've not been able to meet regularly. You also have, you know, you have international houses when I want to get to that as well. How has iLRN changed, good or bad, over this last year?
Oh, this is a great question. And I would love to reflect this question back to you too, because I think this is actually the most interesting topic between us that I would like to talk about. Yeah. So, probably the biggest thing was that Virbela gifted that they gifted that campus to iLRN so that iLRN would become an education incubator, basically, so that we would be the seed ground for other institutions to move onto that campus and start to learn how to teach out of the Virbela platform. We're very thankful for that gift. We are still using that gift. What's happened is that about I think it's about 4 educational institutions have moved in on campus with us, and 1 professional organization have literally moved on campus with us. So when I say on campus, that means that as you came onto this platform, there might have been 3 or 4 people already here. They would have been, quote, working there as you came in. And I see that when I go onto my virtual platform every morning, is there's a few people on campus, they're in offices, they're doing things. So I literally work shoulder to shoulder with colleagues who are figuring out, how do you run 14 students and keep them all paying attention in VR? How do you teach hospitality when everyone's at home in their own houses? How do you teach accounting? How do you teach human resources? So we've got these groups actually in on campus doing that work right now. And then they actually very nicely report back into iLRN how it's going. So they'll say things like, oh, maybe, for example, when I just said a minute ago, how do you keep the attention of 14 students? I only quoted 14 because that's kind of like a standard number of students we could put in our classroom. But we've heard back from educators who would say, yeah, 14 students, Heather, I have 17 in my class, 3 couldn't get in. And it's like, what do you do? Right? We have to solve that problem. So what are they doing? They're probably Zooming the other 3 in. So 14 come into VR and experience it, and one of the 14 simultaneously Zooms. Right? And it could be the instructor, it could be one of the students. And they bring the other 3 students in by Zoom, which you can kind of get is like watching golf, right? It's like you're watching it or you're partaking in golf. There's a big difference. So the people watching on Zoom are not getting the same experience as the avatars coming in. So we're hearing reports back. How do you do that? How do you do registration? How do you do security? How do you do what's appropriate to be done in a virtual environment? So we're starting to figure out all of the answers to this question by incubating on campus. We've also held conferences on our campus for other like-minded organizations. So we are actually fairly picky choosy with who we will allow to come in onto the campus. When it comes to conferences, we have actually had some organizations approach us and we've looked at what they've wanted. And we've either talked with them and they've decided the price wasn't what they wanted, or we've looked at their metric and what it is they wanted to do on campus, and we've decided, yeah, that does not fit what we do in iLRN. So, but we have hosted conferences on our campus, and the Virbela platform does do conferences really well, actually. It does access, it does titles, it can do security. It does special events. There's a lot of parts of the campus that it actually does really good job for conferences. So, like for example, we just hosted IEEE VR, which is like our, really nerdy sister, right?
Yeah.
Yep. She's the one that'll have like the fanciest phone and she knows all the buttons, right? So IEEE VR is super nerdy, and we love them so dearly. And they came on campus, and they were 1,269 attendees who came into campus, and we helped them, and they had a great conference. We ran a treasure hunt on the campus. We did flash mobs. They just took the technology and pushed every possible version of it to its max, and it was just so much fun to host them. So now coming back to your question, how have we changed as an organization? We have really reached out and used that campus as a platform to form new networking relationships that would have only ever been on paper prior to that point. They would have been like maybe one meeting a year, maybe a Zoom meeting, something like that. Oh, it's nice that you do these cool things, but okay, nice to see you, and then forget you 10 minutes later, right? The campus is persistent. The campus has a life feeling to it. We change it with the seasons. We change our clothes on our avatars. We experiment with new features that come on board in the campus. So yeah, we have a lot of fun, and we've really stretched out and reached out. We're still growing. We are not where we need to be. there are 2 more initiatives that are actually simultaneously coming out of iLRN. No one sees them yet because they're not public, but we're actually literally working on them during the conference, which is our State of XR report is still coming.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
That is days away from launch. You didn't hear that from me, but it is days away from launch. And then also our iLRN website's going to get redone. So this whole time, if you were listening to me and you went to immersivelrn.org, we apologize. That website is still running 2020 information on it. So that's actually in relaunch phase right now. We have a mock-up on a staging site, and we're just working with our web developer to get it moved over to our actual IP addresses and everything. And then we'll have a brand new website, which will greatly increase the feeling of community, because one of the things that we get that maybe you guys get is it's one thing for me to meet Laurel and go, hello, this is really cool, and there's your avatar and everything. But I could lose her right after I walk out of ALTSPACE. I could be like,
Absolutely.
I don't know her LinkedIn profile. I don't know her Twitter handle. I could lose her. But with a really good communication-based, community-based website, I can find her. Right. I could be like, oh, I like that Laurel. I wonder what she researches. Let me go find her. So a better website connecting people outside of the campus is on the way, coming. Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah.
Excellent.
That was a lot.
I love it.
Whew.
No, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. And I'm, when you're taking, as someone who also started a business in VR, iLRN started outside of VR and was brought in, but it's a really different experience to do that. And that connectivity, that connective tissue between people is so important. Our Discord and our Facebook group are amazing as everybody connects together and working on membership directories and things. It is really a beautiful thing to keep that connection going. And consistency, showing up over and over for the same events, for events over and over again, also helps to keep that bond alive. So I love that. I love that you're doing that. Is there anything else that has shifted in the business model that y'all are doing?
Oh my goodness. Let me think. I did pull up a set of notes. Anything else going on? We have many other smaller items going, and I hate to lump a whole bunch of things into smaller. It's insulting, but we have a game fuser running, right? What we call a fuser. It's just our name for a hackathon. So we have a game hackathon that's actively running right now. It's our second year running those. They're terrible amounts of fun because we always align our game hackathons to the 17 UN sustainability goals. So we only allow people to make games that actually support planet Earth and all of us. So we like that. That's running on right now. We have a new project which will be called the Knowledge Tree. It's still in conceptual stage and in the early building stages, but what the Knowledge Tree is designed to do is we're bringing together a group of experts who have agreed to do an incredible amount of reading. And here's what it is they're going to read. They're willing to read every research paper that's out there on VR. And then what they're going to do is start categorizing those papers and condensing them together to figure out what the research tells us about things. So it's going to turn what could be a very dry, boring, does it matter if you have 3 fingers in your headset or 5 fingers in your headset? That may be a research paper, right? But they're going to read that paper and figure out, does that lend any value to anyone who is making a hand controller for VR? So the name of that project is called the Knowledge Tree. And like I said, they're going to be gathering the research together, codifying it, bringing it down into this idea of what does the research tell us? Because you just said that a second ago, Laurel, and you hit very nicely on the point of iLRN. iLRN's point is research. You will never find us being the organization that says, everybody, go buy a Quest. They're awesome. Yeah, we're never going to be that group. We're never going to be that group.
No,
which is why, by the way,
why you should buy that one. And here's the research, and here's the details, and here's the things to think about. I love it. I love it.
Yes.
And that right now, that is so important. Not only because we've just finished, well, I hope it's finished, a period of time of, okay, you all know what I mean, of fake news and false studies and lack of support for science, and the driving force to bring back the science, to bring back the proof and the research. especially in VR. So I want to address this in VR, not politics. There's a lot of myth out there. One of the great myths
Yes.
out there is that children can't use VR headsets because it'll
Mhm.
destroy their eyes. That's not why there's an age 13 gap, but it's a myth, and
Right.
there's a 13-year requirement. You have to be 13 because of privacy. Because honestly, if you have ever seen somebody who's like under 6 years old with stealing their
Yeah.
parents' headset and wandering, and they're going, "Hi, my name is Sally, and I
Yes.
live at X92 Street, and my phone number is, and my social security number, my parents' credit card number is," that's just it's because of
They do.
privacy. But the
They
myth is out
do.
there that it's because there's a physical
Yeah.
deformity can happen, which isn't true. And we need that research to
Mhm.
help support the
Mhm.
truth
Mhm.
on whatever, good or bad. I don't mean wrong.
Yeah.
I mean good or bad. We need that truth. We need to understand how this works and all that. So we love what iLRN does because you're bringing the truth out.
Yeah.
You're helping us to see through the myth, see through the assumptions, and so we honor that work. It is really beautiful,
Oh.
and it's really gorgeous. Now, before we get to questions from the audience, you now have been through 2 VR major conferences, plus all the other
Yes.
ones you've been doing,
Yes.
with IEEE and otherwise.
Yes.
We've also had over, we're educators in VR. Now the number's going to be up, but we have an average around 600 VR events that we produce and host every
Oh
year.
my God.
And we're doing almost 200 in May. And so right there,
Yeah.
we're going to break our average is going to go up.
Yes. Yes.
And we're doing the Univirtual experience in partnership with Virtual World Society is doing
Mm.
19 different platforms. You have one, not to
Yeah.
one up you, but
I That's it.
we're
I'm
doing.
moving my avatar over
I
here.
know. I feel
That's
suddenly
it.
feel bad that
What? You stand over there, Laurel. Who are you?
Okay, I'll go over here.
I give you.
Okay,
there.
but it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what
Yes.
platform. The basics are still the same. The basics are still the same.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so share some insights about what is it to host a conference and events in VR? What's different from the real world?
Oh my goodness. A+ question. I think I wished you would ask me this question, right? As I thought about you today. Well, okay. So can I answer what's the same? I think that's the way you said
what's
it
the same?
at the beginning. What's the same, and then what's different? I'll do it that way. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
But,
So what's
honey, you're in charge. Whatever you want to do,
yeah?
it's all yours.
All right. Well, and in this area, your organization and my organization 100% in sync, and that is we lead by heart. We definitely lead by heart. Educators in VR has been an open organization from the very first day. You've been kind, you've been understanding, and you have valued the human above any other part of the experience with your organization. If somebody came in and couldn't find their feet and jumped over in the water there, you'd go get them. You know what I mean? You'd be like, oh, let's go rescue that person. You wouldn't laugh at them. You wouldn't criticize them. If they came in and said, hi, it's my first day in VR. I've never done this before, and I think I'm going to puke. You would take care of them. You guys lead by heart. You also have volunteers who staff this organization amazingly, who agree to pitch in and give in to the organization. Hours and hours of organizing and training. I'm going to stop because I could just keep going. My point is that iLRN has had to do the same thing when it comes to our conferences. We have to lead by heart. Here's one of the reasons why. There literally are not enough researchers in the whole planet for us to actually do what we do. There aren't.
Yep.
Before 2020, the conference was 80 people, and that represented planet Earth's top research crew for VR and immersive learning. That was it. 80 people.
And yeah. And that was what's so amazing about the first conference we did. You had 80 people that would show up at a normal real life, and we brought like 700 people.
Yeah.
That helped make 700 people show up. That's a huge 1-year change. In some
total, yeah, you brought 700. In some total, we hit 3,500.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, some of those people have no deep, long interest in the research in immersive learning, but we're not offended by that. They have some interest. They showed up. So we're like, good, this is our time to relate to them some ideas of, for example, immersive learning isn't for everyone. Yes, you're going to find that on the iLRN label. You are.
Absolutely.
You're also going to find that we're never going to lend out the iLRN label at any price to any headset maker. We're just not going to, you know, it's not going to happen, you know?
Yep.
So, so we're going to keep our standards high, and we're going to take care of our people first. So that's what we decided to do. So a lot of the stuff was similar. It's ironic we're standing here talking in VR when, to some degree, we feel like sisters and friends. You know, we worked so closely together. Some of these people in this crowd, hours I have spent with them, hours of our lives we have shared together, and taken care of people, been nice to people, been kind to people. There's something just so
mean
bonding.
to each other. Let's just be equal time. Yeah. You stinker. You know, there's been moments, but when you're working with it, I just need to say this because this is so important to both of our organizations. When you are that close and you're working on a project together so intimately, you're going to have fights. You're going to have disagreements. You're going to snark at each other. You're going to get tired and poopy faced, as one of our people say. And yet the love never ends. The love never ends. That persists because you've created a safe space where it's okay that you can be bitchy at each other and still love each other. And that's rare. Even in most work environments, you don't have that kind of relationship. And I think that there's part of that's VR, but part of it's the heart of the organization. So I love that. So what else? And thank you to all of our amazing people. We're talking about you. That's how much we love you, and we love fighting with you as much as we love loving you. It's just it's part of that process.
Oh yeah.
Now, what else is the same? What else is the same for VR to real, you know, from real world to VR? What's the same in doing an event?
Well, the whole publishing track stays exactly the same. So the rigor, the fact that papers have to come in and be IEEE formatted, which is wacky weird on planet Earth. The fact that papers have to be reviewed, the fact that people have to present, and that's a gatekeeper for them actually getting published. So think about it. That means that if we were doing the exact same thing in ALTSPACE, people would have to get an avatar booted up and come in here and successfully present in ALTSPACE. It's a high bar, actually, that they have to reach. We actually have to have advertising and marketing and respect for diversity and accommodation. We have to have ticket sales. We have to have sponsors. We need to make a little bit of money so that we can pay the bills. You know, so all those parts do turn out to be the same. They're actually the same.
Now, they are the same.
What's different?
Now, what's different? Yeah.
What's different? Oh, well, I can tell you one of the things that has happened since we're now on the back end of the hour. I'm going to let things slip a little bit now, but I'm going to tell you. I'm going to tell you because I know you guys are
warning.
my sister organization, so I know you know what I'm about to talk about. Yeah, no. You can tell when somebody made their avatar 5 minutes ago. And,
or didn't.
Yeah, we can tell. Okay. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad if you are somewhere out there feeling like this. What I am trying to do is trying to make some of our world's experts in VR feel bad when I say that, because they're an expert in VR. And if they come into the platform and we begged them to come to rehearsal, and we set rehearsals at 2 a.m., at midnight, and 3 in the afternoon, and we invited them, their kids and their dog, and they still didn't come to rehearsal. If they take the stage 5 minutes before the presentation and look like a dolt because they walked right off the stage, I'm not saving them from that. They are just going
Thank you for the bluntness. Oh my goodness, you know, so we believe different in walking the walk, not talking the walk. And unfortunately, we bring in some of the most brilliant VR experts who have
did Laurel cut off for everybody else?
Laurel will be back.
It's just that second. It's like cliffhanger. Don't.
Yeah, she should be back any minute now.
Okay.
Sometime.
No worries.
Yeah, it's usually just a bit of internet lag. She'll be right back. Yeah, there you go.
Yes,
you
You
are.
cut out.
sorry.
Well,
Or have crap for an internet, as you do. Um, oh, my internet! I just want to scream. But it's
We're just
and
that was
so we're not.
Kismet.
We don't.
Kismet went and got us there.
I know it. I know it. I got nailed. But
Karma.
honestly, if you are invited to speak in something in VR, take advantage of the training. Honestly,
Mhm.
our organizations, we will bend over backwards. We will put, crawl out in our jammies to glue ourselves at the computer at 1 or 2 or 3 o'clock in the
I
morning
know.
to help you understand how this works. We want
Yep.
you to feel comfortable. That is very different. Many speakers in the real world will walk into an event, walk up on the stage, start going. They don't care. They just, where do I plug in my laptop, do my
Yep.
PowerPoint, and all that. Which brings me to another thing that's very different. So please take advantage of any of the training and please attend all the training so you know how this works. But is PowerPoint.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And so here's my tip for, while we're doing this together. In VR, it's probably the most important thing you might hear all day, other than join iLRN, join educators in VR, is if you choose to do PowerPoint. Okay, if you choose to be brave and do a PowerPoint, remember that in VR, everything, just imagine that PowerPoint is the size of a postage stamp and you're up in the nosebleed section of an auditorium looking, or
Mhm.
a big sports theater looking down on it. Have as few words as possible. Have as big as letters as possible. Have big pictures, no words. This thing right behind us, you can't read most of it.
Nope.
It's a static.
I don't
You
even know.
can't
I've been
read it in
standing
VR.
here for
Yeah,
42
you can't
minutes
read
and
it.
I don't even know what this says.
Yeah, you can't
Yeah.
read it. It's just part of the process. So be aware, it's a speaker card we just put up as a placeholder, but for marketing. But be aware that if you choose to do PowerPoints, they suck in VR. They suck in the real
Yeah.
world too, because
Yeah.
they're boring. But tiny letter, trying to jump up 84 sentences onto a single screen, it does not work, especially in VR. It doesn't work in the real world, but it doesn't work in VR. So
Right.
that I can tell you. And I don't know if y'all know this, but research was done, speaking of research, that if you do PowerPoint stuff, anything that is done with black letters on a white background makes your eyes get tired. Your eyes get
My
tired
Irish
and
are
you
tired
become
now.
sleepy. I know it. So if you have a dark background with light letters, that goes away. So how's that for a trip? Real world and VR, darker colored backgrounds, light colored letters. You stay a little more increasing visual
Yeah.
engagement with your audience.
Yeah.
Okay, so what else is different when it comes to presenting and to hosting and controlling these things?
Yes. So this.
I know our most horrible thing in the world. I want to do expletives, time zones. Imagine expletives, time zones. You just think of your favorite expletive. Time zones suck
Time
beyond
zones.
belief. Time zones?
It's the flip side
Nightmare.
of being able to pull from an international audience. Yes.
Absolutely.
There is
real life
literally
event,
no one you cannot offend on that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. In a real life event, we can say, "Hey, Heather, I'll meet you at that next session starts at 11."
Yeah. And you and I would be standing near each other and know what 11
Yes,
means.
we would know it. But in VR, her 11 is 12 hours different from my 11, which may be 7 hours different. And
Yes.
it's amazing because there is no time zone in VR. And during our international summit last year, you heard this story. We
Yeah.
had somebody from, oh crud, I forgot. Daniel, do you remember? It doesn't matter.
Pakistan.
Anyway, they were from a place that had instead of 1 hour, it was
Half hour.
45 minutes. It was
Oh my
45
God.
minutes.
Oh my God.
It was 45 minutes, not 1 hour. So we could say the event is in 2 hours, but we couldn't because it was in an hour and 45 minutes because for that one speaker, because it wasn't a solid hour and time zone shift. It was 45 minutes. So we had to adjust everything. It was a nightmare. But
oh, I know.
the key is not just trying to get people to show up at the right time for the time zone and the speakers, but scheduling with time zones.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
How is that? How did you solve that problem?
Well, like I said, we decided early on to only target Europe and then basically Tokyo.
Mhm.
So London and Tokyo, that we targeted those 2 time zones. It ends up that if this is what we discovered, if you target those time zones, the 7 a.m., 8 a.m. Eastern US will actually hit both Tokyo, London, and New York all awake.
Mhm.
They will
Yep.
be awake and cognizant human beings all at that time. So if aliens are ever going to
Mhm.
attack, don't pick 7 or 8 a.m. because we're all going to be at work. So we'll all be
Yes.
around. We're going to be good then. But that happens to, by the way, totally screw the Pacific Ocean. But oh well, it's a whole ocean. So we'll just let that go. Okay.
I know. It is. It's really tough. It's
They
really
get
tough.
screwed. They do not get.
Yeah.
California and Hawaii get no love in that story. Yeah. So anyways, and then the 7 p.m. Eastern US hits Tokyo and Sydney really, really well because they're actually just getting up in the morning and starting their next day. So not just time zones in the same day, Laurel, but different days, right? So you have to know that
Yep.
some of your crowd
It's the
will be
next day
like, I
and
had
the-
somebody
yeah.
email me yesterday desperately telling me that they needed an answer to their email because they're presenting tomorrow. And that completely confused me because I'm like, no, you're presenting on Saturday. And I had to go,
Yes.
oh, wait,
It's
where they
there
were, tomorrow was
tomorrow.
Saturday. So I was like,
And
shoot.
honestly, we've had these conversations. No idea how insane these conversations are
Yeah.
when it comes to time zones. So
Yeah, it's crazy.
it's
So
really crazy. On it. So what else?
That's what we did was,
Mhm.
so when we targeted those two time zones, we did make a hardcore design decision. We didn't base hardly any scheduling decisions on the presenter's home time zone. This is the first year iLRN has done that. So that means that we have heard complaints from our presenters from time to time who say it's 5 a.m. and you're asking me to present or whatever. We're hearing about it. Here's how I'm countering that. With respect, it's an international conference and we are trying to serve the most amount of audience we possibly can. And that means that an audience of 30 people outranks the one person standing on stage. When it comes to, I'm going to present this at a time when it's going to work for those 30 people. That's the group
Absolutely.
I'm going to satisfy, not the presenter. So and when in doubt, we've just asked them. A lot of them are labs or groups of people anyways. So we'll just say, you know what, get a tech or get somebody in another time zone to present for you. That's a colleague, a lot of these teams are interdisciplinary teams across universities, across countries, across continents anyways. So we're just like, get somebody else who can do it, or your morning person, book your morning person. Yeah.
Right. Have the evening person do. So let's take some questions while we then go through some of the other things. So, Jorge, besides you're back on the deck. You have a question? Jorge?
Who are you?
Gorgeous. Sorry, gorgeous. Benny, you're up. Confusing display name. Benny. Nothing. Okay, that was a mistake of the button. All right. If you do have any questions, please hit the raise hand button that's in the lower right corner, and we'd love to answer your questions. So, what else?
Can I ask you a question? Oh, sorry.
Certainly. Of course.
Okay, this is our time together. Otherwise, we're so busy we don't have time to be together. Can I ask a question? Since you guys have been running, literally, you're in day 21, okay, and I'm only in day 5. So, how are you guys noticing a difference in your presenters and your presentations this year? Because I have noticed a difference. Last year, everybody was running around like a chicken with their head cut off, and additionally, it still felt like those of us who were into VR were still the weirdos. We still felt like we had only just found each other, right? Like we're like, oh, look, someone else who doesn't think VR is weird, and or someone who doesn't think this is all just a game and put it away now. Yeah. Have you noticed a difference in your presentations and your presenters? Who wants to answer that?
Absolutely. It's fascinating, and I don't know if y'all are feeling it, but the caliber of the presentations have definitely improved. More importantly, what is the best part is there's less reading. People would get up and go, I'm here to talk about and I'm going to do and you can see up on the screen behind me. That's mostly gone. Mostly because We trained it out of the speakers. We said, this is a
Yay!
conversation. This is
Yes.
about sharing. This is about
Yeah.
connecting. This is not about standing at a podium and reading from a script. It's about the connection. And if you're not making a connection with your audience, we don't want you. And I know that's really callous, but that's huge. And they listened and they
I like
shaped
it.
up. And
Nice.
it's beautiful. So yeah, we're finding a higher caliber. We're finding greater comfort. So I'm thrilled. You're going to start
Yes.
having that. And not always. You're still going to have the speaker who didn't do the training and you're going to have to deal with that. That's always part of the process.
Mhm.
But for the most part, we're finding that. But you know what's even more exciting? Oh, Heather, the audience is better prepared for VR.
Yeah.
That
I can
part is
tell.
wonderful. The audience
Yeah.
is not coming in and freaking out. They're comfortable.
Right.
They get
Oh, I
2D
know.
VR. They get 3D VR, in the headsets. They are more comfortable. And that is beautiful. When you have an audience that is able to pay attention to what's going on, you have a more interactive audience. When you have an audience that's going, why am I wearing this thing on my face? It's steaming up, and oh God, it says overheating again.
Where's my
That's
hand?
that's
Yes.
not a healthy audience. Yeah, where's my hand? Yeah, it's floating over near my butt.
Yeah.
We don't. It's beautiful that the audience is
Exactly.
definitely feeling more comfortable, and that is
I
beautiful.
see
We're having
that.
more new people than ever, and it's gorgeous.
Oh,
I
really?
love
That's
it. I
great.
just love it.
Probably about
Yay.
5 minutes ago, I was looking out there and I could have sworn 2 people fist bumped each other. I was like, almost
Yes.
like, really?
Love
That's
it.
amazing. I can't move my
Love it.
hands. And you
we
guys
can we can butt bump. We can butt bump. Woo, butt bump.
What? I just,
butt bump.
can I stand still and do it?
Yes,
Okay.
here. Yes, yeah. Butt bump, butt bump. Okay, there. No. Okay.
But no, yeah, you're right. No,
It's
a
beautiful.
year ago, somebody would have come in
Yeah.
and waved his hand into your face and jumped off into the
Yes.
water and screamed and everything. Yes, you're right. And
we got
no
much
one's
more
been doing that.
control. Yeah.
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 Nice.
Robin, you're up. What do you
Hi,
got
thank
for
you.
us?
Thank you. This
Uh-huh.
has really been informative. And I appreciate it. I went to the iLRN conference a little bit last year, and I've certainly been to a number of things in ALTSPACEVR, and I love ALTSPACE and I love educators. It's just great.
Yeah.
So, but my question
Thank you,
is, you mentioned something about, an audience of 30 taking priority over an
Yes.
audience over the speaker of one, right? And so I was wondering if
Yes.
both of you could maybe talk a little bit about audience expectations. How small is too small of an audience to have an
Yeah,
event?
yeah.
Oh, that's a tough one, because I believe, so I teach this to my students too. I do not want to talk to 1,000 people. You talk to 1,000 people, you may sell to 10. I don't want to talk to 1,000 people. I want to talk to the 10.
Mhm.
And so
Mm,
for me, it's the same thing in VR. I don't care if one
Mm.
shows up or 10 shows up, but
Mm.
I don't want 1,000. I want to talk to the 1 or the 10 who want to be here. And this
Mhm.
it applies in the real world as well. So audience
Mhm.
sizes, there's another answer to that, but I want people who want to be here to be here. So I've had amazing presentations to one person because they were the right person, and their passion to
Mhm.
be there and their commitment was more important than anything else. So I don't care if I'm not one of those people who go, we had 3,000 people in our event.
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't care. How much
Yeah.
business did you get? How many connections did you make? Well, I only met 2
Right.
people. Well, then those 2 people are the most important. But when it comes to managing events, the key in VR that is different from the real world, not too different. So if you have a room that will only hold 30 people in the real world and you try to jam 50 in there, you're going to have some issues. Okay, you're going to violate fire hazards and all the different things. In
Mhm.
VR, you have performance issues.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
ALTSPACE, now that unfortunately the Oculus Go and the Oculus or the Samsung Gear are gone and the Daydream are gone, we can now fit more people in a room. ALTSPACE has increased the audience sizes to 50 as a base. It was 30.
Mhm.
But you have to really pay attention to everything you bring in, every one of these cards, this entire world. You have to pay attention to the
Right.
size of it and the specifications to make sure that the performance is good.
Mhm.
And so this
Mhm.
entire world is about 3.5 megabytes. Now that's huge. Most of them are like 20 to 50, which is wrong. But this is a really lightweight world. And so it's
Yeah.
got nice high performance, has good frame rate. And so those technical aspects are really critical. And
Mhm,
those
mhm.
dictate how many people can come in a space, how many people can come in.
Yeah.
Because the more people you bring in, the more the performance will drop. Now, Virbela is on Frame VR.
Mhm.
Yes. Was that, are you tossing it to me, or is this one of those pauses?
The pauses, she'll be back.
Okay. I'm looking her right in the eye. Yes.
Oh.
Oh,
Come back.
whoa.
There she
Okay,
is.
sorry. Ah.
Okay.
Zzz. Okay, so you've experimented with your campus. You've had situations where they've popped up where, as great as Frame VR happens, you're putting things in that cause people to crash or have performance issues, right?
Yes, that can happen. Yes, absolutely.
Mhm.
Actually, sound issues are our big thing. We get sound.
Sound.
problems.
Yep. Sound
Yep.
problems. And because Virbela is working on VR, it's improving in VR, but it's mostly a 2D,
2D.
laptop
Yep.
experience in there. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that makes it different, but it's no different than, do you have enough water and coffee for all of the attendees? You got to pay attention to the little
Yeah,
details, all
exactly.
those little bits and pieces. And then the
Exactly.
rest is, what kind of experience do you want? Do you want to have 1,000 people in the audience, or do you really want to have a more intimate dialogue and able to connect with the audience?
Mhm. Yeah.
Does that help answer that question?
Yes, totally. And I would tend to agree with you that I'd rather be speaking to a smaller group of people that's interested than be able to say, oh, 50,000 people came to my event or
It's
whatever.
like, great,
Mhm.
they bought one album. That just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I also let you
Exactly.
know that for the events here's one little difference between our two organizations. The Virbela campus is not necessarily a closed campus, but it's kind of a garden wall campus. You have to
Yeah.
have a purpose and a reason to go there. Our events here in AltSpace, Engage, and everything are completely open to the public. That means
Mm.
anyone can come in. And so we have different crowd control issues, moderation issues, and challenges.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
we have there's two mods in here right now. We had more a little bit ago, but they're going to prep the next event. But the ratio for a public event is around
Yeah.
12 to 15 audience members per moderator, depending upon
Oh.
the event design. Now, if you have an expert moderator, which we do, that ratio will definitely go up.
Mhm.
But in general, that's kind of the recommendation, is around 15-1 for your moderator ratio.
Yeah.
And so that's a little different. You have crowd control issues with a totally public event, because a 4-year-old grabbing their mom's headset could wander in here right now, and you have to deal with that. Where the odds of them ending up in Virbela, slim and
Not
none.
so much. No.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a little bit of a difference. So
Yes. We
great
do.
question.
Yeah. Great
Thank you.
question.
Any other
Yeah.
questions? We have just a few minutes left. Please ask away. And tell us again, while we're getting ready for the next questions, if
Yes.
anybody has any. I have 1,000, but we're running out of time. Tell us again, May 17th through
June 10th. Yep.
and
May
where,
17th through
how,
June 10th.
what?
On
How
the
much? Details?
Virbela, our virtual campus. If you will surf to immersivelrn.org/ILRN 2021 / you will find our conference website.
Yeah.
And you can also find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter. You can find me on, there's a Facebook group for the Immersive Learning Research Network. We're behind you guys on the Facebook front. And,
And a Discord.
trying to catch up.
Great Discord.
Trying to catch up.
Mhm.
And yes, we have a Discord. Yep. And
Mhm.
registration is free for non-presenters. And so I'd love to see you over there for any of our events. And hey, before the camera goes off and before everything shuts down, we have
Mhm.
actually invited educators in VR to come to our closing party, which is June 10th. And it's, I believe, what time did I tell you? Did I tell you it's 7 p.m.? I think that's when it
I
is.
don't know. I
We-
have to look and yeah.
I
Oh,
know.
now look at this. Now wait a minute. Didn't we
We're
just
like
have
blur-
this discussion about time zones? She
Blurp,
says 7
blurp.
p.m. What's
I
7 p.m.?
just show up over here. What? 7 p.m. Eastern U.S.
Okay,
You're
see?
right. You're right. You're right. I would be running off the stage if I wasn't so frantically scrolling through another browser window. All right. Yes, I'll go right over
Yes,
here
I
now. I know. Yes, 7 p.m. Eastern U.S. Do the own translation yourselves, people. And on June 10th, we're going to have a dance party. We have a dance club on our campus called Haptics. I always like to say, can you feel it? Yeah. So haptics. We booked DJ Alexandra in there. If you know her, she did a great mix for us actually Monday night. So I'd like to say she's going to come back for us that night and do an hour. Come and hear the music. We put in a request for
Love it.
international, funky 80s, 70s, and 90s music. So she just does a great set. There's little dance animations, everybody. You're all standing there like sticks. You can come over to my campus and dance. So, and please come because we'd like to give it as a gift to educators in VR as thanks for our relationship.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes, absolutely. So do check that out. We'll be announcing all of that as soon as we get that time zone business figured out. So I love it. Okay. So the universal experience continues on. I want to thank Heather Dodds here, the most amazing person. I love my sister in VR and immersive
You
tech.
all my
is
sisters and
here.
brothers
I
here.
know it. With representing the Immersive Learning Research Network, iLRN, and all of the great team at iLRN. Just love them to death. Our next event coming up is Engage. It's called Closing the Skills. Oh my goodness. I've been doing this too long today. Closing the skills gap. And you want to be there's yeah. Am I crashing out my voice?
Yes.
Am I here? Hang on. I'm waiting for my little where they've put it in there for me. All right. Am I back?
Yes.
Nope. Yes. No. Can y'all hear me? Okay. All right.
Question
Thank you.
mark?
All right.
Okay.
So coming up is closing the skills gap with XR in Engage with this incredible Daniel Dubosky Bryant, Julie Smithson, Ben Irwin from he's part of Metaverse and Simple Power and the Web Poly Awards, and they are all coming together to talk about all the skills with spatial design skills, micro learning, skill set, badging skill sets, and all the things that are associated with really preparing students for the future and for today. It's really beautiful technology. We have a social you should see our club Euphoria is absolutely the Euphoria Club. It is gorgeous. We have a nightclub. We're going to be getting together in very shortly, in just a couple hours. Please come us socialize, connect, and dance out to what I don't know what Mark from News and Updates created this special space for us, and he is jamming us with some amazing music. Who knows? It's been some K-pop, techno pop here lately. It's been amazing. And we also have 2D training here in ALTSPACE, but I want you to skip it and go to Engage, to the incredible Colleges in VR discussion with top leaders representing colleges around the world that are going to be talking about how do you get your administration, your faculty, your school on board? How do you get VR and AR, XR into the classroom? How do you deal with budgets and all of those, the challenges that get in our way? Be there in Engage. It's at 3 p.m. Pacific, if that is helpful to anyone, which is, are you ready for this?
What?
It is, no, hold on. It's 3 p.m. Pacific. It is 6 p.m. New York. It is 2300 in the UK. It is midnight in Paris.
What?
It is, I can do this, 1 o'clock in Athens in the morning. It's 2 in Moscow a.m. It is 7 a.m. in Hong Kong. And it is 10 a.m. the next day in Sydney. So just letting you know, I got the chart in front of me. We got these time zone crap. We got it figured out. So I want to thank you all for being at another Universal Experience event. I want to thank HP Virtual Reality and HP Higher Education, our Infinity sponsors, who and we have, as I mentioned, we're working on a raffle for a HP Reverb G2 headset that is so freaking awesome that they have donated for us to be able to give away. We also want to thank our Galaxy sponsors, Engage and Advantis Education, for changing the face of education in VR and XR. Our stellar sponsors as well, Grove XR, VR Lady, Frame VR, LearnBright, LBX Immersive, and Waking Dream XR. Also, special thanks to Donna McTaggart of Let's Meet in VR, our event manager and director for educators in VR's events and Univirtual Experience, and Tony Cube Studios for the generosity of spirit and assisting with all the video work that's being going on in the live streaming. I also want to thank our amazing volunteer moderators and filmers and everyone who helps make this work.